Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and welcome to the Snob West Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, for another week of the Snob West Show. We want to thank you for your continued support of our show. If you want to become a Patreon supporter to get access to some exclusive content and to watch the show live, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobawestcast. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We're going to kick it off with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. First up, there was an outage this morning meaning Thursday, where Apple ID services went down. iCloud Mail went down, and there were some weather issues. So, folks who were trying to access their accounts for payment processing, to log in to their devices and verify the devices, when they put in their username and password, which were correct, they were getting error messages saying that they couldn't process the request to try again later. I think I saw somewhere that it said that some folks were getting invalid um, messages as well. So this happened, I think, around people started noticing it around midnight. And of course, it was a lot of discourse. I think they finally got it back up and running. There was no workaround for this fix. It's just something was going on the back end, and until Apple engineers resolved it, you were just kind of SOL until it went back online. And I think it came back around 3 or 4 Eastern, no, 3 or 4 Pacific Standard Time, when they got the issues resolved. So I don't know if you were up and you saw any of this discourse, if you had any issues with getting access to any of your devices.
I was absolutely not up at 4 a.m. Eastern time, so I did not recognize or fall victim to some of these issues. According to the Apple support system status page, they said they had an issue. This is according to Apple. They had iCloud account and sign in issues that they resolved as of 4 o'clock this morning. And they also had iCloud mail issues
Hmm.
that were resolved as of 4 a.m. this morning. They really don't go into details at all as to what was the
What
problem
happened?
and what the fix was. They just say these two issues have now been resolved.
Yeah. And I think I've seen some comments where I think, again, as we've said before, when it comes to Apple, when anything happens, it's, the worst thing in the world, which this is pretty bad. Don't get me wrong. This is definitely bad. But it's software. Things go down, things happen. I think Apple is typically held to a higher standard when outages happen, with other platforms. Of course, it's bad, it's reported, it's an inconvenience. But I think Apple, kind of got smacked on the nose a bit harder than most people do. And the fact that it was overnight for most people in the US, but you know, where Americans and East Coast folks are not the only ones who use
In the world.
in the world that use Apple ID or iCloud Mail. So it has widespread consequences, across the globe because
Right.
Apple products are a global product. So I'm sure people who were affected, time zones and areas that were affected, I'm sure this was a big deal. Um, so yeah, so it looks like they're resolved US time. I mean East Coast time, like maybe 7 or 8 a.m. And it went down overnight. So it's like maybe 11 or 12. So so most of us on the East Coast, unless you were up and out and doing things, weren't really affected. But other folks in other time zones were. But considering the notification when it went down, to when it was back up, it may have been like 4 or 5 hours. I think, to me, it's one of those things where, the root cause wasn't disclosed. That may give people a little bit of cause for pause to say, "Hey, is this is this going to be an ongoing thing? Is it a one-time thing?" People typically like to have some sort of resolution or close to other than, "Yeah, it's back up and working, so there you go, and go on about your business."
Right.
Next thing up for Google Home users who, who use on iOS devices. Google has is Matter support is coming over to Google Home app for iOS fairly soon. It There isn't a specific date that Google provided, but they just use soon. I know that the rollout for Matter enabled devices on Android was last year, so now it's coming up for iOS devices with the launch of iOS 16.5. Um, I'm thinking that they're timing this to come out with the latest release, and I think the release candidate came out earlier this week, I believe. So for folks who use Google Home on their iOS device, you're going to be able to use the Home app without having to have any additional accounts or downloads. It'll be Matter controlled, so it'll be easier to use and integrate with your existing smart home setup.
Yeah, but nobody cares because there are no Matter devices out yet, to my knowledge. Now there may be some devices out there that support Matter, but really there isn't enough widespread use of Matter compliant devices for this to be any bigger announcement than it is just a little report that, hey, if you're using iOS to control Google Home devices, you'll have Matter support. Whoop de doo. Now, when devices come out and we get to see the power of Matter, then this will be a big deal. But right now, much ado about nothing until you actually put out some dope products or some dope functionality with this Matter that they've been talking about for years. It's been like
Mm,
2 or 3 years now, but it's like we need to see something. Once we see something,
yeah.
then we could be up and we can rejoice about, how functional and how cross platform worthy Matter is when we can't even get no products yet.
Yeah, I think what this is doing is basically setting the stage to say when devices do start to roll out and you are able to purchase them, come use Google Home for this. We are already set and ready to go. So as you are, holiday time is coming up down the year. I know some people like to plan ahead. So I think they're trying to get in people's ears early to say, yes, we are ready. So feel free to go and buy those devices. And you can be certain that they're going to work in our ecosystem. So
Are we certain? We need products to be certain.
as certain as they can be with, I guess, their testing. So that'll be the next thing. So say you get all these devices and everybody's expecting it to work and it kind of does a little fizzle, goes up and comes back
Mhm.
down when you start to connect these devices and they don't quite work as you expect it because unless some of these companies, unless uh, Google or Apple or any of these other companies are getting, some of these devices early to test with, that is obviously an open question of how well and how seamless will the integration be and how well it will work. Again, these are multi-billion dollar, trillion dollar companies. So maybe they get the advanced screening, so to speak, or usage of some of these products that are coming down the pipeline. So who knows? We'll see how that works. I think the other thing is that Google has redesigned the Home app. So I think they're trying to kind of cobble those things, two things together, say, look, our home app is redesigned and also it's Matter compatible. So yay for us. I
I
don't
believe
really
it when
use
I
Google
see it.
Home. I don't use Google Home. So, you know, I think I had a Chromecast. I think I still have it somewhere, but I don't use it. But it wasn't to me, it wasn't the most it wasn't the best user experience for me. But
Right.
I digress. Hmm. All right. Next up, which is something that I found to be pretty funny and very petty of Apple. So we know that iOS 17 is coming up. WWDC is just under a month away. And some leakers, we always talk about the people with the leaks and the rumors, and they have, the designs beforehand. They know what's going to be in the app. Well, someone got caught in what they call a canary trap. So, a tipster by the name of Analyst 941 leaked a lot about iOS 17, about what's going to come in it, what's the big things, what's, just giving all the tea on iOS 17. And they had an inside source, apparently. Well, it was all a trap. So what happened was, in addition to talking about what was coming out in iOS 17, they made the announcement that Final Cut Pro was going to come to iPad in 2024. And Logic Pro was going to come to iPad in 2025. However, these two dates were incorrect, and incorrect for a reason. So
Good.
apparently, Apple, when they are doing these new device launches, they come up with faulty information and they keep track of who they give it to. So, say if you're on the team that worked on this, say Terrance was on the team, I was on the team, and a third person was on the team. I would
Mhm.
get one set of release dates. Terrance would
Mhm.
get another set of release dates, and the third person would
Mhm.
get another set of release dates. And so when these leakers or analysts or whomever, whatever they call themselves, leak that information, it can be traced back directly
Mhm.
to the Apple person who told this information. And this is what happened with this analyst, what did I say, 941. So apparently the leak came from the sister of this leaker. So now the sister is out of a job. And now this leaker and the sister are both going to have potentially legal claims against them from Apple. And again, it's all a part of Apple's strategy because they know some people just can't, keep their mouth shut. They know
Playing
something
around,
and they got to
playing
tell it.
around, playing around on the internet trying to be famous, got your sister fired,
Mhm.
and he puts
Both of
in
y'all
this
going to court.
right. So he put in Mac rumors where I guess he posts frequently or whatever the
Yep.
case may be. He says, please save this. I don't know what a PGP key is, whatever, but he says, please save it. If you ever want to contact me in the future, I will be deleting this account within 24 hours for my safety. It's like, relax. You're not going to show up missing.
Because then
You're
Apple won't be able to sue you.
right, right. But he's still trying to, even in this goodbye note that he put on Mac rumors, he's still trying to big up himself like, oh, I'm on the run now. I'm the infamous anonymous dash a dot s. So I'm gonna be on the run from Apple, you know. It's like, man, relax. You are not
And
in
trying to play the sympathy card. My sister doesn't talk to me anymore. Well, duh, you got her fired. And now
stupid.
she's going to have a hard time getting a job anywhere else
Yep.
because she's a known leaker. She's
Yep.
a known person to communicate proprietary information to people who are known to go out and leak it.
Yep. So I've said this so many times before that Apple should do this. I didn't know there was an actual thing. This canary
Mhm.
trap thing has a title and it's been used before in the past.
Mhm.
Let's see, um, Elon Musk tried to use it to catch people leaking stuff in 2008 as it relates to Tesla. Wagatha Christie, I'm not sure what that is. It sounds familiar, but it was used to catch in 2019. Um, I'm not sure what this is about, but anyway, they did the same thing. So I'm kind of happy that not happy. I'm pleased that something that I assumed or wanted companies like Apple and anybody else, not just Apple because I'm an Apple fan, but I mean, the engineers, the designers, the developers, they work so hard to push out this information for somebody to just get a scoop on them and leak it, right?
Mhm.
I said all the time, it's like, you know what Apple should do? Companies like Apple, they should put out fake information on purpose and see who takes the bait.
Mhm.
But I didn't know it was an actual thing. That was just me hypothesizing on what Apple could do to stop all these leakers, and but not saying Apple took my advice. But at the same time, it's nice to see that this is an actual thing that Apple and companies like Apple do, and it actually works.
And who's to say that, this particular person came out and said, "This is what happened to me." I'm sure that this whole canary trap has worked before when things have leaked, and, most people just don't come out and make a huge deal of getting caught by
Because
Apple.
embarrassment. Because it's
Yeah.
embarrassing that you
You
got
got.
got on some fake information that wasn't even real. It's one thing to leak something that's real and be like, a win is a win. I may get pinched by Apple, but I was able to leak this next thing before Apple could. You
Mhm.
leaking fake stuff that they made up. So that's double embarrassing on top of getting your sister fired. And of course, he says, um, like you said, I can't believe I did this. You can believe you did it because you did
You did it
it.
on purpose,
I'm
friend.
so I'm so sorry to my sister and Apple as a whole. I don't know what else to say. I know she is destroyed. She also hates me right now. Like I don't even know that I have a sister anymore. Probably not because like you said, she probably got fired from her dream job and it's going to
Mhm.
be hella hard for her to get a job anyplace else if her name in fact comes out because court
Lawsuits.
lawsuits are a matter of public record.
Right.
So hopefully this sends a message to people that Apple they're watching you. So
They got traps in place for
right.
you. Be careful who you talk to and spill stuff to, because, you never know. I know for me in these types of things, you know, if I'm on our show or on another show or just, speaking at something, the only thing I talk about is what's on I go to the company website, to the press room, and whatever I will be talking about or anything that could pop up, I read what's already public and published. And if I do references, I preface it by saying, on the previously released, newsroom or news site of this particular company, it said A, B, C, and D. Because when you work in certain arenas and areas, you have to be very careful what you say and who you say it to, because it could mess you up for real.
Yeah, and I
So,
don't like rumors because it just spoils the surprise.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to Apple announcing something dope versus me hearing it on rumors because people are trying to get the scoop. I'd rather
Or you saying stuff that I get excited about and it's
it never
fake, it's
comes.
wrong.
Right, right, right. Yep.
Hello, Power Matt. I'm never
That
letting
wasn't
that go.
but that wasn't a rumor. Apple actually announced it
No,
and
the
was like, "You know
the
what?
release of it,
Oh,
it
got you,
that
got you.
kept
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
was like, "Okay,
Kept
alright,
getting
it's
leaked,
coming, it's
leaked,
coming."
leaked,
Yeah, yeah,
leaked.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, and I'm never letting that go. But, but yeah, so it's one of those things where, y'all better watch your mouth because they coming for you. And, I don't know, I would just be sick. You know, first of all, losing your job. Second of all, the impending lawsuit, you're not knowing when the shoe is going to
The
drop,
other
and
shoe
it's
is gonna
just
drop.
like,
Yeah.
"Man, now y'all got me out here," like this dude said, running, like, looking over your shoulder, like, every 5 minutes, afraid for the mail to come because God knows what's gonna be in the mail for
Mhm.
you because you thought it was cute to go out
Mhm.
here and leak information and then leak wrong information. It'll be one thing if you got it right, but you got it wrong.
Oh, well, he got hell, look, he my sister work at Apple, so it just can't be wrong, right?
She
Right.
said, yeah. Speaking of the actual launch of iPad, Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro is actually out there. It will
A
be
real thing.
available. Yep, it will be available for subscription service starting May 23rd in the App Store. You can download it now, but the subscriptions don't start until May 23rd. And I think it's like $4.99 a month or
Dang.
$49 a year. And this is going to allow video and audio creators to basically have their studio in their
On their
iPad.
iPad.
They
Uh-huh.
don't necessarily have to have their big laptop or their desktop to run these, industry-wide use tools. They'll be able to do it on their iPads. And the good thing is most of the changes are touchscreen um, enabled, which makes sense because the iPad is all touchscreen. With the new iPad, the second generation Apple Pencil, I think that unlocks some even cooler tools. You can hover, particularly in Final Cut. You can hover over segments and not even touch the screen. You can, move around your segments, cut them, trim them, moving them around. But yeah, I know Terrence and I both use Final Cut for this show. I think this is pretty cool that you're gonna have all of this access right from your iPad, which is pretty dope.
Right, and I'll be honest, people, iPad users looking to get Logic Pro or Final Cut Pro for iPad, probably I would assume they won't be using it because, ooh, it's touchscreen and they'll be able to use the Apple Pencil and they'll be able to use a screen. I think most people want to get away from having to use their
Laptops
desk
and
setup
desktops. Yep.
for quick edits, quick updates, things of that nature.
Right.
But they are probably going to still use the keyboard with the magic keyboard and the
Mhm.
and or the one that has the trackpad in it, or they're going to have a separate keyboard and a mouse. But if you're asking somebody, okay, if you want to use Logic Pro or you want to use iPad Pro, all I need is my iPad, a keyboard, and a mouse versus going home on my 2 monitors and my big computer or my laptop
Mhm.
is plugged up through this
On the full
USB hub.
setup. Yeah.
Right. If I just need to do something real quick, you mean I can tell me I can just whip out my iPad that has a keyboard and the trackpad built in and I can use Final Cut
Anyway?
Pro? I
Yeah.
think they're all for that. I'm actually
Yeah.
looking forward to it. I don't know if I'm looking forward to the 50 bones a year to use it because I don't know if I'm going to use it that often. But
Mhm.
what I can say is iMovie for iPad, I'm past that. I'm beyond that. I need something better
Little bit
than
robust.
right, right. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this works. I may fork over the what is it? You said $4.99 or $50 a
4.99 a month.
year.
And you get a month free trial. So,
Yeah, I may try that and we'll see how it works. Again, I have an iPad. I haven't they haven't said on here whether it's going to work for the M1s or the non-M1s. Have they said that in here? I don't
um, they mention for iPad Pro with M2 that the Apple Pencil feature I was just talking about, it's only on the iPad Pro M2.
live
Trying to
drawing.
see.
Yeah, live drawing allows users can draw and write directly on top of the video content using Apple Pencil. Better yet, on iPad Pro with M2, Apple Pencil Hover unlocks the ability for users to quickly skim and preview footage without ever touching the screen. So it seems like there's certain specific features that'll be available for M2 users, but I don't see where it says only
Right.
M1 or M2 users,
And
iPad
typically
users.
if they're yeah, and typically if there are those types of limitations, they'll say you can use this for iPad Air or iPad Pro, or it'll give you specifics. But it looks like you'll be able to use this on all iPads, and it looks like you'll get some extra special features if you're running the Pro line of iPad.
All right, all right. I have
Yeah.
an iPad Air with M1, so I'll definitely try this out and see if I can use it to edit, some of these shows that we're on without having to, like I said, get behind my computer to actually
Mhm.
do it. Especially if I can plug a hard drive up to the iPad Air and just pull my
Mhm.
data like I normally do. Again, I can just use my iPad.
Yep. Think that's pretty cool. And sorry for the people who are listening to that leaker who were thinking they're gonna have to wait until next year and the year after. It's actually here now, and
Mhm,
come the
mhm.
end of the month, you'll be able to get access to the subscription. You can, like I said, you can download it now, but the subscription doesn't start until the 23rd, which is on a Tuesday. So yeah, we'll let you know how it works out for us, how much we like it, and how
It's
simple it
crazy,
makes life.
crazy what people do for clout.
For real. All right, that is going to wrap up the lowdown. Let's head on over to second string where we talk all other tech. So, this time of year, most of the tech companies are having their big conferences to announce new technology, new software, new hardware, to have a big splashy way to show you all the new, wonderful, and exciting things that they have coming out for their products. Well, your fave, Google, chose to spend a portion of their keynote to take a quote unquote jab at iPhone for not supporting RCS. We've had this conversation, it's been rehashed multiple times. For me, the whole thing is you have this big conference, you're inviting people out, your tech bloggers, your tech influencers, your tech writers, you're flying all these people out, you're showing them all this cool stuff, and you still take time out of your IO event to take a jab at Apple because they won't come over to your way of handling messaging on devices. Will it ever end?
Um, no, because according to Apple, they have no plans to adopt RCS in its devices, and there's really no need. Google can say everything they want about interoperability between iOS and Android, but they mentioned that also it'd be a good idea for Apple to support RCS because RCS is end to end encrypted versus you just sending a text message is not encrypted. Again, that really ain't no big deal because you sending a text message, an unencrypted text message, nobody really cares all that much. And if you do care all that much, you can use WhatsApp. That is available on
There are
iOS
other
and Android.
options.
You can use Signal, you can use Telegram, you can use all these other things, right? So I get Google's stance, but again, they are just saying it and they're just trying to use that to their benefit. They really
Mhm.
care about their users sending unencrypted text messages, they just want to be able to say Apple is running on RCS, something that we um made popular. There's a better word for made popular that we standardized. Google
Mm.
standardized or modernized RCS. Now look at Apple finally deciding to, adopt
They're
our
copying us.
exactly, right. I think they just want that cachet to say that, we modernize something, and then Apple, like you said, came on board versus coming up with an actual solution for their own users, right? Because
Right.
I don't even think all Google users, mobile device users are using RCS. So again, this goes back to my original point. If you really want Apple to say, "All right, let's see what we can do," Y'all need to come up with something that everybody on Google or using Androids loves just as much as
Mhm.
iPhone users love
Love
iMessage.
iMess.
Once you do that, then Apple may budge. But until then, Apple's like, man, y'all figure that
Mm.
out because we all right over here.
Again, that ain't none of my business what y'all
Right.
doing over there. We're gonna let
Mhm,
you have it. But I
mhm.
just think it's just really strange to me that they just keep beating this dead horse. The people said they're not coming. There's nothing you could do or nothing you could say to get them to come over at this point. So why continue to make a spectacle, especially at your event where you're highlighting all of the new software and hardware that you have coming out. You take time during the keynote, the biggest conversation of the whole week for your products to
To
still take that jab.
to be fair, to Google, Apple does at their keynotes, they do take jabs at Windows and they take jabs at Android when they talk about adoptions, particularly when they talk about how many users have jumped on the latest iOS. They'll say 90% of all mobile phone users, I'm just making that number up,
Mm,
but they'll say, 97% of all iPhone users are on iOS, let's just say 17, right? Versus, and they put Android's little thing, their little funky little line at the bottom, talking about how Google, users or Android users, they still have this, what do they call it? What's the word when everything is split up? Anyway,
split up.
defragmented is the word I'm going to use. I know that's not the right word, but
Okay.
they're when you got all these different Android clones, you got all these different forks of Android, and all these different manufacturers that make Android devices, and they all got different things going on as far as their iOS. Apple does take jabs at them. So to be
Mhm.
fair, I get it if Google wants to say, all right, we need something to jab back at Apple. Oh, RCS, we're gonna go there, But again,
It's
it
the
goes
same
back to
thing
my
every time though.
well, it goes back to my original problem, right? We, as in iPhone users, we understand the importance of updating it to the latest iOS in order to be safe from bugs and get the newest features.
Mhm.
And I want the new stuff, right? Google can't even um, guarantee that everybody, when they drop a new OS, that everybody's going to be able to adopt it. So again, it's like you gotta if you're going to take jabs, you have to be bulletproof. And Google, as it relates to some of these features,
Are
are
not.
not.
Plain and simple.
Mhm.
So we'll see if they bring it up again. I'm going to guess yes, and we'll see what that next time is when it comes up. Right. The last thing for second string, I particularly wanted to bring this conversation up because we've been talking a lot about AI and people are worried that AI
Artificial artificial intelligence. Make sure
is
you say
going
it
to
all out.
take
Right.
over is going to take over human jobs. They're going to make us obsolete. Well, ChatGPT, which is the well-known chat box automation system,
Hmm.
is not quite fully automated. They have a human component, which is unfortunately low-paid human workers that are labeling this data that enables it to be automated and text
Right. And
generated.
and
Uh,
trained. Right.
right. So that's the biggest thing, is just to say, again, AI has to have a human component for this whole thing to work. The second part of this is they are severely underpaying the human components
Hmm.
of ChatGPT. They're paying them what, $15 an hour
Hmm.
to do this work that's, revolutionizing, you know, um, text generated artificial intelligence. And it's unfortunate that these folks who are labeling all this data, it's a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. Uh, for them to do this. And again, they're only getting paid $15 per
Right.
hour to do this
It just
work.
it just flies in the face of artificial intelligence when you got people doing it. It's not
Right.
artificial if people are doing the work. Now, again, I wish they would have came out with another name for this, ML chatbot, machine learning chatbot, because that makes more sense because
Yeah.
you need people to do things in order for the data to do its job. So
Right.
machine learning makes more sense because it is actually learning from what our inputs, our prompts, the people behind the scenes, like you mentioned, these people that are doing all this data labeling, which is the process of training ChatGPT software to better respond to user requests. It's not AI if it's learning from people. So I think they need to come out with a better name for this. But again, that's the name that took off. Everybody's running with it. So we all, oh, AI is going to take people's jobs. Apparently not, because they got people working $15 an hour doing it. So let's ease up on how artificial this is. Let's ease up on the fact that it's going to take these people's jobs when neither of those are true right now.
No. And I've been saying this from jump. I think people think they hear artificial intelligence. Heck, they even hear machine learning and just think, it's
Robots.
magic. It's
Right.
robots. And they think it's machines doing all the stuff behind the scenes. No, there's still human intervention, collaboration, whatever you want to call it, needed. And the fact that these folks who are doing that work are getting paid so I won't say so little that they are being underpaid for the amount of money that
Right.
uh,
Exactly.
ChatGPT, OpenAI is
Is
generating,
making right.
and it's just gobbling up money from every single tech company there is are just throwing money at them. I think we talked about it before about I think the $10 billion that Microsoft
Hmm.
is giving them over time. I think they've already given them billion. So it's one of
Hmm.
those things where the money's there. They're just not spending it on the people who are actually making this thing run.
Right.
So so yeah. AI is not taking all of your jobs, people. It's just not. That is going to wrap it up for second string. We're going to head on over to For the Culture, where we talk about socially relevant things that we care about, that have some social discourse, that may be entertaining, that may be thought provoking. And this week's For the Culture is very much thought provoking. Um, I I tried not to talk about it so much because it's one of those things that it just keeps happening. It's very sad, it's very disheartening, but at the same time, it is discourse that definitely needs to be discussed. And we have another hashtag, and that hashtag is for Jordan Neely. He is the young man who was a street performer in New York who got onto the subway and was disruptive um, and loud to some people. And a another young man decided to put him in a chokehold and hold him there for 15 minutes, ultimately killing this young man. And the person who killed him is free. He was held even at the initial onset of this as a hero. He was allegedly protecting the people from this deranged, I think I heard saw the word unhinged person. When what the video has shown, the young man got on and said that he was hungry, he was tired of being unhoused, and that he was, willing to go to jail at this point because it was just so hard for him. So there's some mental health factored into that, hunger, um, being unhoused, being black. Um, and it's just one of those things where it's just being unhoused, being hungry, being poor. is not licensed for other folks to take someone's life into their hands and end it, especially when even if you thought that this person was going to cause you harm, um, even in this case, the person, I think his name is Daniel Penny, he grabbed him from behind, so Jordan never really saw him coming, and he was a former Marine, I believe, so he was trained in this tactic, and he knew what would happen if he continued to hold that position, and people were telling him, "You're going to kill him, let him go," and he did not.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, this young man's life is lost because someone decided to take it upon themselves to um,
Restraining.
restrain him. And anybody who's ever been to New York, any other large metropolitan city that has public transportation, performers on the train, people being loud on the train, this is not uncommon. And in most cases, people are so used to it, they tune it out and they go ahead about their business. And it's just really sad that this young man lost his life for this.
Even if he was being annoying, even if he was pestering specific people, even if he was, threatening, you have to ask the question: is that a death sentence?
Mm,
In most cases, the answer is no. I'm pretty sure this could have been handled myriad of any other ways, but because of who he was, because of what was going on in his life, this guy who then, the second part, wasn't even arrested, after the fact, he answered some questions from the police and then they released him on the same day of the incident. Again, you know, if you're involved in somebody, if you're involved in an incident where somebody has lost their lives, I want to believe that there should be more done before people are just let go. The same thing with the other incident. I can't remember what the other one was. Um, what was the other one? There was another incident that happened to the young man who was picking up his siblings and he went to the wrong
oh, the
house.
16-year-old, yeah.
Right, right. Went to the wrong house. The person who owned the house came out, shot the guy, shot the young man. He ended up living, but again, an incident that happened to where somebody either loses their life or was involved in an accident, or not accident, involved in a incident
Incident.
to where somebody could have potentially lost their lives. I want to believe that more should be done prior to just saying, let me answer you some questions and then release you. Again, I'm trying not to make this about race, but in both of
But
those instances, the person who was killed or harmed was black, and the person who
did
um,
the harming.
did the harming was not.
Mhm,
So now we've got this thing to where New York people are protesting, not only because Jordan Neely was killed, but because nothing happened to the dude who did it. I mean, put him in jail, do all the things. If you're going to throw black men in jail and they have to prove their innocence to get out, that
mhm,
should be across the board. It shouldn't be
mhm,
pick and choose case by case basis. It should be if somebody's murdered or a gun incident or somebody got shot, you should be held in jail or in at the police, whatever, until a better result comes out of it, not just release. You ask some
right,
questions and get released on the same day. So
right.
now, as a result of the pressure, as a result of the protests, according to the story, this guy, after week or two after the incident, he is to face a manslaughter charge, according to the New York District Attorney's Office has said again. But the only reason
because of
Why they're
protest.
now because of the protest, because of the backlash. I think the
And
New
the
York
same thing that happened with the other young man. They were gonna let this dude go. His
and
neighbors
they
weren't talking, but the
right.
protests, and now
Mhm.
he's charged. It
Right.
shouldn't take all of this
Right.
for someone to be held accountable
Right.
when, by the same token, if the races were reversed, we all know what would happen.
Mhm. Yep.
And
They
it's my thing, if you're gonna let one go, hell,
let
let
all
them
of them all
all
go.
go.
Right. Right.
If you're gonna
Yep.
lock one of them up, lock them all up.
And that's
I
all
mean,
and
that's
that's
all it
all
really anybody's asking at
right.
this point.
Most
Just
most
parity.
most black people are not saying I wish more white people get locked up. What we're
No.
saying is it should be fair to where if you're going to, like Nika said, if you're going to lock black folks up, you should lock everybody up. If you're
Mhm.
not, don't lock
Let them all
anybody up.
go.
I think that's ultimately what we're doing with these protests, why a lot of people are so angry, especially as it relates to police officers, especially as it relates to, in this case, like this guy was a Marine vet. So I'm pretty sure that played into, he's, like you said, quote unquote, trained to analyze situations or whatever. I'm pretty sure that played into the reasons, on top of him being white,
Mhm.
played into why he was just questioned and released, as opposed to getting locked up, getting taken through the system like people
Mhm.
that look like me and you
Mhm.
normally do on a regular basis. So I,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Just just everybody, with all the news, with all the things going on, please take care of yourselves. Tune out to social media or the news or whatever the case may be to ensure that your mental health um, stays intact. Show some kindness um, to people around you. Obviously, be safe, but a little kindness goes a long way. And definitely prayers to this young man's family. I think someone said that his mother recently passed. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I saw some of that discourse. So it's just, now this family is having to deal with not only the loss of their loved one, but all of the, for lack of a better word, circus around it. Not knowing if something's going to happen to the person who killed their loved one. Now you have protests in this person's name. You have the whataboutisms people, the contrarian people. It's just a lot. So definitely prayers out to this family, to yet another family who's having to deal with their loved one being a hashtag. That is going to wrap up for the culture this week. Let's head on over to the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
all right. So I think I've talked about this one before, but I still think people sleep on this tip, and basically it has something to do with text replacement. When you're sending somebody a text message, instead of putting the traditional example that Apple uses, is when you're opening a text message and you want to respond to somebody, like say for instance, I'm letting Nika know I'm on the way. Instead of me typing all the way out on my way, I can use the shorter OMW, and once you type in OMW, Apple's text replacement will fill in on my way. So it's just like a quick way to say some quick messages using a shortcut. It will give a better way, a full answer, right?
Mhm,
That's one of the ways that examples that Apple uses it. You can put in your own keyboard shortcuts for a myriad of things, but I think this comes in handy to where people should use it more when it comes to putting in email addresses, because I'm pretty sure you have one, two, maybe three email addresses that you use all the time. And instead of typing out the whole email address every time you want to sign up for a newsletter, it seems like anytime you go on the internet to buy anything, they have to have your email address because they want to put you on your newsletter. So I can count, I don't have enough hands and fingers to count how many times I use the same email address to enter it into something all day long, right? So my tip for you, again, like I've said, I've mentioned this before, but I definitely suggest you try it out. Is instead of just using the uh, um, text replacement to type out just words that you want to shorten, I suggest you use it to use shortcuts for emails. And the way I do it is I use the at symbol. I use the at symbol all day long, but I never use the at symbol two times in a row, like at. So
Mhm.
I use that as a start for my keyboard replacement to type in an email address. So my main email address that I use, when I type in the at symbol twice, it replaces that at symbol with the full email address. So you can use, if you got multiple email addresses, you use the at symbol three times or a different one, four times, so on and so forth. Typing in the at symbol four times is so much easier than typing out your full email address.
Mhm.
So that's my tip for the week. Definitely, if you want to do it, definitely you go to the iPhone settings, you go to keyboards, you go to text replacement, you type the little plus symbol to add a new replacement, and the characters that you want to use are the shortcut. So if you want to put at symbol two times, three times, that is the shortcut that you input. And then that, once you put that in, you also have to put in the phrase that it completes. So the phrase in this case is the email address. So that's the kind of the trick that you want to use. So that's my tip for the week. Definitely use text replacement, and you can use it for iPhone, you can use it for iPad, you use it for Mac to type in uh, a shortcut for all the emails that you type in all day long.
Cool. That is going to wrap up the show for this week. We definitely want to thank you for tuning in. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
You can find me all over the internets at Brother Tech. That's BrothaTech.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva on all of the platforms as well. Again, to connect, to comment, to share, and to support our show, you can head on over to snobOScast.com to get all of the details. That's going to wrap it up this week. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.